So when I first arrived at Melbourne Airport, it was actually extremely empty. All of the airline check-in desks were shut and there were no staff around. There were a handful of people waiting to check into my Air New Zealand flight, and we were all just waiting for the desk to open, which happened after about 20 minutes of me being there. As you can see, there weren't a whole lot of people waiting in line to check in, and everyone was really good about social distancing and wearing a mask. Hey guys, so I'm at the airport. I'm just waiting at the departures gate because it doesn't open for like another 20 minutes or half an hour or something. So I got here really early and my counter for check-in wasn't open yet. So I was just lining up with a few other people, and then more people started coming, and then exactly 3 hours before the flight's meant to take off, the gate opened. I was one of the first people, and they asked to see my passport, my Australian government travel exemption, and then the guy at the counter called up, I'm assuming the Australian Border Force, and just gave them my passport number and my name, and just confirmed that I did have a valid travel exemption. After that, he asked to see my ESTA and confirmed that my ESTA was valid to get into America. And then I loaded my bag. It did take a little while because there's obviously a bit more paperwork to go through, but it wasn't anything major, and I'm still done with plenty of time. So I'm just sitting here waiting while there are a few other people still checking in. I think from the looks of things, I don't know, potentially, I know it's very early until my flight, so potentially more people will check in, but just based on the amount of people at the line, I would say that there's maybe about 20 to 25 people on my flight from Melbourne to Auckland, New Zealand, which is my first transit stopover, and then I'll go straight to LAX. Yeah, so hopefully not too many more people checking, because I would really love an empty flight with minimal people and minimal COVID exposure, but I guess we'll just have to see how it goes. So after I went through airport security, which was very quick considering that there was not many other people boarding many flights, so it only took me about 10 minutes to go through all of my check-in luggage and go through my passport control stuff. I obviously had to walk through the departure hall to get to my gate. This is when I passed the duty-free section that was completely open, so you could still buy watches, sunglasses, makeup, and perfume. However, the only thing I bought was some water for the flight. As I was saying, all of this part is open. If anyone's been to Melbourne International Airport, you'll know this whole section is like the duty-free shopping right after you check in, but all of the designer stores are closed. So usually here they have like Michael Kors. It's all backwards because I'm using my inside camera. Michael Kors, like Max Mara, they have a Rolex. There's like Tiffany & Co, Burberry. I don't know if it's closed because it's early in the day. Like I think at the moment it's around, I think it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock. But none of this is open. Usually it's all open. Yeah, so they might open later, or maybe they're just shut because international travel is not really happening right now, but it is a ghost town here. So these are the departure gates. I think Movida, is this what this is? Or it's a bar. Yeah, it's a bar. Pulpo by Movida, which is a restaurant in the city, is open. Everything else is shut. So I'm just gonna go over to my gate, find somewhere comfortable that's far away from everybody else to sit down, probably just charge my phone and read a book while I'm waiting. So I'm at my gate. Look at that. Do you remember what that's called? That's a plane. Haven't seen one of those in a long time. When I first arrived at my gate, there were about 20 to 30 people, so I decided to sit a little bit further away from everyone. Right before boarding commenced, I decided to come back and start lining up so I would be first on board, and in total there was about 50 or 60 people at that stage. I was the first person to get onto the plane, or like going to the plane, because I was lining up so early. Anyway, we are finally on our way. Here we go. Fingers crossed it all goes well. I deliberately tried to be one of the first people to board the flight so that I wouldn't have to come into contact with anybody else on my way to my seat. Even though Melbourne at this point in time hadn't had a community transmission case in about 9 to 10 weeks, I didn't think you could be too careful. So I safely got to my seat without having to come into contact with anybody else, and then I started sanitizing everything. I wasn't able to film it because I was really focused on making sure I was being as safe as possible and making sure I got all surfaces, but before I sat down in my seat, I did sanitize the whole seat, the headrest, the armrest, the wall that I was next to on the window seat. I sanitized the window and the handles, and I did sanitize the 2 seats next to me because I had the whole row to myself. The flight was about 50% capacity, and everybody seemed to have a row to themselves except for the people that were traveling together. Here you can see me sanitizing my TV screen, and I did also sanitize my tray table and just about every other surface that I could potentially come into contact with during my flight. Now, I know this next thing I'm about to say will probably be quite controversial, or some people might disagree with it. I'm not saying I recommend this or that I advise other people to do it. This is just what I do. Usually on a flight, I just sleep the entire time, and I don't really eat or go to the bathroom anyway. I just usually sleep because otherwise I get motion sickness. And specifically on these flights, I decided not to use the bathroom because that is the area of the plane that has the highest risk of COVID transmission. Like I said, I know Melbourne hasn't had many cases to date, and so I probably didn't have much to worry about, but I still just decided to lower my exposure risk, and so I did not go to the bathroom throughout the whole time I flew from Melbourne to Auckland, nor Auckland to LAX. My Melbourne to Auckland flight was pretty good. It was only 4 hours, and like I said, there was nobody sitting in my row, so I had the whole space to myself and lots of leg room in my exit row. I managed to watch some Modern Family, slept a bit, and they were still doing a meal service despite COVID. However, I think the options were limited compared to what they usually offer. Landed in Auckland, New Zealand. Transiting to LAX now. They asked me to get off the flight before everybody else did. Like, they specifically came to my seat and asked, are you transiting? Because they can obviously see my flight. And I was like, yes. And then they said to get off the flight, so I was the first person off. Yep, so now we're transiting. Hopefully it's a smooth flight. Hopefully everything goes well, and hopefully I'm in LA in 12 hours or so. So I am now at my next gate in Auckland, and it's empty. There's 3 other people in here, and all the shops are closed, but that's okay. Just gonna find the bathroom, fill up my water bottle, and then sit down and read some more of my book. I waited at my next gate to board my flight for about 2 hours with only 3 other people in this whole room. As you could see, we were extremely social distanced on completely different ends of the building. About 15 minutes before the flight was boarding, a flight attendant asked us to come into a room, and we went down some stairs and got on a bus that took us directly to the flight. We were the first people onto the flight, and that gave us a lot of opportunity again to sanitize everything around us. Just me sanitizing every square inch of my area. Absolutely everything. Anything that my head is going to touch, anything my hands are going to touch, everything. After about 20 minutes, there was a speaker announcement that general boarding would now commence, and then another 60 to 70 people came onto the flight. This was super surprising to me because I did think it was initially just the 3 of us flying, but obviously we were just people transiting off another flight who got to board first, not the entire flight itself. Still, everybody still managed to have a whole row to themselves except for the people who were traveling in groups. Overall, the flight was really pleasant. Nobody invaded anybody else's space. Everybody wore a mask and social distance, and there was still food service, which was great. I did notice, because it was a 12-hour flight, which is obviously very long, a lot of people were using the bathroom, and so that's just something to be mindful of, that I imagine a lot of people take their mask off when they go to the bathroom, and obviously are touching a lot of the common areas. So if you can, I recommend that you minimize your exposure and don't use the bathroom on the flight if possible. As soon as we landed, I was so excited to see my boyfriend in a couple of mere minutes, but I was also extremely nervous because the toughest bit was ahead, which was customs and immigrations and just getting through the border. Obviously, I had absolutely nothing to hide and no reason to be scared, but based on all the horror stories I had read about people flying during COVID and then the restricted rules, I was just a little bit concerned. So I just got through customs and I'm going to get my bag they asked me a couple of questions, like when was the last time I was here, how long I'm staying, who I'm seeing, stuff like that. Apologies, I didn't film a lot in the airport. There was security everywhere, and even though they didn't ask me not to film, I didn't really feel comfortable. Plus, there were people everywhere, and I wanted to make sure I was paying attention to social distancing. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I was extremely surprised by how fast I got through customs. They didn't ask to see any proof of my relationship with my partner, any paperwork about my employment, or any bank statements or proof of income that I could support myself while I was here, even though I had heard from many people before that flew during COVID that they were asked to provide that documentation. So I think it was still really good that I had it on me, so I was prepared, but I wasn't required to show any of it. And they did ask me questions such as why I was here, and when I mentioned I was here to see my partner, they asked what his name was and where he lived. But other than that, I got through pretty easily, got my bags really quickly, and then I was in the car with my partner and we were driving home. I made it! So today is actually Valentine's Day, so it's February the 14th, and I arrived here at the end of December. So I've been here for like a month and a half now, and I'm just so happy that everything worked out and I made it here. Obviously, as soon as I got here, I wanted to spend time with my partner, so I wasn't really focused on trying to film the rest of this video, but we've obviously had a lot of really good quality time since I got here, so now I wanted to finish this for you guys. Basically, I think where we left off was that he picked me up from the airport. He didn't come inside, like he just drove up on the curb, and usually he always parks the car and he comes inside LAX and picks me up every single time I arrive, but obviously because of COVID, we didn't want to like risk exposure for both of us. So he just drove the car around the curb, stopped, I put my suitcase in the back, sat in the back diagonal opposite from him. We rolled down the windows and wore masks the entire time. We didn't touch, we didn't high five, we didn't hug or anything. When we got home, he stayed in the car and I came up to the apartment and put all my clothes in like the COVID bin at the front door that I told you about. So he basically bought plastic bins that were brand new, not dirty, put like plastic bags inside them. And then when I got back, I took off all my clothes, put it in that bin to make sure that like if any of my clothes had COVID contamination or any germs and bacteria, like it didn't carry throughout the rest of the house. Put it in the bin, ran to the shower, had a shower, and like I washed my hair, washed inside my ears, under my nails, my hands, everything, my feet, between my toes, everything for at least 30 seconds per area. Washed that, and then I went upstairs, and then so we were like separated. I went upstairs and then he came in. I texted him saying that I was done. He then came in from the car, did the same thing, put his clothes away, went to the shower, and then we were like both fully disinfected, and spent the rest of the day just eating food and catching up for the first time in a few months, which was really nice. And so yeah, I've been here for a month and a half. We've been having an amazing time. I'm sorry I've been a little bit absent on Instagram and YouTube. I'm sure you guys understand like the time that we have together is rare and means a lot to me, so that is obviously priority number one. But today is Valentine's Day and we are actually driving to Joshua Tree for a little long weekend getaway, so I'm gonna try maybe make a video about that. So stay tuned to my channel to see when that gets posted in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that this video helps any other couples that are trying to reunite or families. Make sure you're being safe. Like I said, this isn't what I think everyone should do or like what might work for everyone. This is just a video of what we did and how I managed to fly from Melbourne to LA. I'm planning to do a third part to this series, so it's going to be 3 parts, and that will be hopefully my travel back from LA to Melbourne, and the 2-week hotel quarantine that I have to do when I get there. So if I can, I will try and make a video about that to help educate you guys and inform you, because I've actually gotten some messages from people about my part 1 video saying that they really got a lot out of it and it really helped them, and some people have managed to get travel exemptions to see their family or their partners, which makes me so happy that my videos can help reunite other couples, because I know how tough it is. But yeah, thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. Stay tuned for the Joshua Tree video, hopefully coming in a few weeks, and the part 3 travel vlog about hotel quarantine and flying back to Australia. Thank you so much.